Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday again. Just like that, you blink and the week flies by. I hope everyone had a great weekend and hopefully a pretty decent Monday. Today's guest is one of my besties, one of genuinely my closest friends, Maya. We sit down, talk about a litany of things. You know how we do, have a bunch of fun, chit-chat. But the main thing we really talk about are icks. And what an ick is and why people give icks and like what a lot of my personal icks are, some of her personal ones. And that kind of dives us into a bunch of different conversations about integrity and honesty and what it means to apologize to people and how to communicate in relationships and all the good, fun, juicy stuff. And it's always, I've said before, but it's always nice to have a woman's perspective here for it. So I'm not just some dude monologuing, making a fool out of himself because I'm not actually saying anything that any woman would agree with. So, but yeah, love her to death. Knew that she was eventually going to make her way onto the show, and I'm glad that we did. We always have good conversations, so I hope that people get something out of this. I hope I don't I hope I don't hurt any feelings with some of these things, but you know, honesty is my number one policy, so I gotta lay out how I feel, and everyone's got personal preference, but I won't pad this up too much. We're gonna dive in. The first thing we really talk about actually is a job that she just hopped out of, and it's not the best thing to do for work, but it makes for great stories, and so and then we'll transition on in. But all that being said, this is Unserious University episode 11 with Maya. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you have a great week. And I'll catch you next time. Intro out. Peace. I'll have you introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then...
Ooh, I'm so nervous.
And then we'll dive into the job thing and have fun with that.
Okay. Do I just...
Mm-hmm.
Just...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hi.
Pretend like you're meeting someone.
I'm Maya. Nice to meet you all.
How long have we known each other? Because
God.
we met back at Dill's apartment, I think.
Yeah. Well, we met then, and then, like, I hadn't really hung out with you guys in, like, a long time.
Yeah, there was a huge, like,
but
complete gap.
You moved back here. What was that, like, 2022? Like, we, like, rekindled our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think 17 I met you. Was it 2017?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then...
So how many years is that?
8?
Quick maths.
8 years, about.
Okay.
And so, like, we've known each other for 8 years, and we've, like, followed each other on social media for 8 years, so we've kind of had, like, a general idea of, like, how our lives have gone, but, like, we didn't get, like, really close until 3 years ago.
I honestly have no idea. It was probably just, like, a mutual thing when I started following you, because I saw
you
100%.
I
saw your post on Twitter that like blew up of you. It's you and Dalton, right?
We're
the
Mermaid Man and
SpongeBob
Barnacle
thing.
Boy.
And I was like, oh, you guys are funny.
Yeah.
But I never like interacted with you,
Right.
and I don't really even think that like when I did hang out with you, that I realized that was you.
That's so funny.
For like a long time.
Thank God. Yeah, I can't remember who I talked to about it before, but it was just that like beautiful era of social media where you would just follow everyone that looked like they were friends with some of your friends, because it was just this like collective social vouch.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh,
you know that person.
You know like 50 people that I know? Like, we're basically friends.
Exactly.
So you follow them, and then now you like look back, and it's why everyone from our like age or generation has like 500 to 1,000 people that they follow, and they're all like people. They're not like accounts for like content. Yeah. And that's just kind of batshit insane, I feel like, to say out loud, because
it's just a small town, I feel.
Yeah,
like all like I mean,
it's a little village.
Even with like Chachi, we know like certain people where I'm like, whoa, how do you know that person? And it's like I just met Chachi like not too long ago, so it's crazy to hear like certain people that we know, and it's like, you're in Santa Clarita, I'm out here, but somehow we know this person.
Yeah, I mean, with our friends Abby and Noah, like Bailey being one of her best friends, and also like I've known Bailey since she was a kid. Like
Right.
I've watched her
Yeah.
grow up because I've been really close with her sister. Really weird stuff like that. But yeah, so we ended up just following each other and according to the whole mutual fun culture that was going on. But it was even before we moved here. Like we actually started hanging out like back when I still lived at my parents'. And we hung out like, and that was when it was like, oh, like I never knew you. I always thought you were cool and we crossed paths or whatever, but I didn't realize that like, oh, like this is someone that like is really fucking cool and I could be like actually like really close with.
Thank you.
And
I know. I always like saw you guys as like the cool guys.
Really? Are you serious? We're the fucking dorks.
It's like when you.
Now that you're in.
Now
you realize.
I'm like, well, I'm one of them.
No. You're like, oh, they're losers.
Damn it. It's like kind of like Courtsville with like the Senior Hill. Like all the cool people live there. So now it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't say your address on here. This house contains cool people. Just blur that out. Oopsies.
That's so funny. Yeah, I think your social security number is so beautiful. The digits in order. Let's go over them.
I love your credit card number.
I think the pin on the back is really what pulls it together.
You're with Bank America now, right?
God, fuck. I was
that hour-long phone call.
Oh, my fucking God. My first ever transaction on a Bank of America card, and I had to go on the phone for an hour and a half, and I just hung up because they put me back on hold again.
Oh, no. I would have tapped out. I can't stand that.
Yeah. I'm still going to use the card, though, because I want fucking flyer miles. But
well, what did you even need to call them for?
I will be the one making the purchase for the bachelor party.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm going to get a flyer card. I've always wanted one. And so I opened one up, and they were like, great, here's your card. You can use it. And I was like, dope. And then I tried using it, and then it didn't work. And I called them, and they were like, oh, you can't use it for that.
What?
Not until you get the physical card. And I'm like, is there anything different with the physical card? Well, no. I'm like, great.
You can't use it for that.
No, yeah. And
that's crazy.
And so, yeah, long story short, that was not great. But anyway, so we actually started getting really close, and then now it's just been like the rest is history.
Yeah.
But your past job.
Oh.
How long did you do that for?
Oh, December, January, February. 3 months.
It really feels even shorter than that. I can't even believe you'd put up with it for that.
I feel like it was longer than that. Just the days. There's no windows. Okay, well, there's windows in the rooms, but like that hospital is just like the back rooms. So it's just.
What did you do?
I was a EVS housekeeper. So basically, I reset rooms for patients. So when you're sick, you have all your symptoms, and you're in the room, and you get discharged, I'm the person that goes in there and cleans it up. So that was really fun. It was probably the worst job I've ever had. And I've had a lot of jobs. Like, probably way too many for a 24-year-old, but I've never cleaned up so much shit, piss, and vomit in my life. Oh my God. And I work with a lot of kids, too. So, like, but I feel like that's so different. Like, kid shit is one thing because it's like they're kids.
Yeah.
They got a diaper, a pull-up. Having to clean up grown man shit is a lot different.
Yeah, like dying grown man shit.
Yeah. It penetrates the soul for sure. Oh my gosh. I remember one time, I don't know, people have a
let's do it.
Poo-poo trigger warning.
Let's do it.
I had to so weird enough, we weren't allowed to touch fluids. So like there's a canister on a wall that fills up with urine, and we're not allowed to touch that because if we're trying to take it off the wall and it gets all over us, like
it's hazmat.
Yeah. Or like blood or anything like that.
Right.
But for some reason, poop was okay. And so I had this.
Had to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah. I had this guy. So we have like a little phone at work, and you get like a room. And it said, please clean the bathroom and the toilet. And when I got in there, he was in the bathroom. So I was like, hi, you know, like, is it in here? And they're like, oh, no, it's in the bathroom. He's in the shower right now, so I had to wait a little bit. And then he comes out. Oh, my God. It was liquidy. Diarrhea. All over the toilet.
Oh, my God.
And I called my leader, and I was like, we're not allowed to touch fluids, right? And she was like, well, what is it? And I was like, it's poop.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, well, no, that's okay. And I'm like, what? Oh my God. I was like,
no, it's a
no,
fluid.
No, it's fluid. It's liquidy.
Oh my God.
It's a fluid. I put 2 masks on, 2 gloves on. I had my bleach wipes, and I like closed my eyes and like was looking away, and I didn't have the door closed, and I physically like gagged. I was like, and I tried to like be quiet. It's like when you take a shot, you don't want your friends to know that you're probably about to throw up.
Yeah.
I had to hold it in so much that my eyes started just tearing up, and like my mask was getting wet from like my tears.
Oh my God.
And so like I had to wipe it, and I was trying to close my eyes, but it's kind of hard to do that when
you're supposed to clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the time I want to look to make sure I'm getting it, it's like a liquidy chunk. And I just about lost my shit. I was like, this can't be what I'm going to be doing for another year.
An extended period of time.
Yeah, because after 6 months, you can switch to a different position at the hospital.
Uh-huh.
But I was like, I literally can't. I can't wait 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, well, also, like, they didn't treat you the best.
No.
Either. So, like,
No.
I think there's multiple areas that can make a job worth it.
Yeah.
And it's like pay, management, culture,
Yeah.
the work you're actually doing,
Yeah.
and like your schedule.
Yeah.
And all of those sucked for you.
Exactly.
So,
like, to be honest, there were times where like the rooms were super easy, and I was like, this is
Cake.
I just had headphones in. I listened to like podcasts, to music or whatever, and it was fine. I was like, I could handle this, but then it'd be like you'd get the worst rooms. I even like had like my last day there, right as I clocked in, even I'd get like 12 o'clock shifts, and it's like clock in at 12, and the first thing I'm doing is scrubbing shit out of a toilet for a prisoner who is restrained to a chair. And it's like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Like, this isn't
your passion?
And like the nurses would call you like a hospital maid, which essentially, yes, but it did hurt my feelings. It did hurt my feelings. It was a little humbling. I was like, damn. So yeah, I quit that job. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Or it's like, you know, old people, you get a little flaky, skin starts drying up.
Mm-hmm.
The ends of the beds, when you take the
God.
sheets off, because people get like cracked heels and like dry skin.
Oh my God.
I take the sheets off, and it'd be like fucking snow.
Oh,
because the dry skin is like just sitting there. And oh my God, like sometimes that was worse than like dealing with poop, because I was like, because I don't know where it's going.
I wish I could see everyone's face listening.
And then I learned that when you smell things, bacteria is getting in your nose because you're smelling it.
Well, yeah, like the actual thing you're smelling has to enter
So
your
I just
nose.
kept thinking about every time I was smelling poop, I'm like, oh my God, there's poop
There's
particles
shit
going
in my
in my nose.
Oh. Yeah,
No.
I personally, I love to like lecture people on like don't be a bitch and like, you know, like knuck up or whatever. I cannot handle poop.
No.
I cannot.
No.
Like those videos that go viral of like dads changing their baby's diapers
That's
and they're like scream gagging. That is me. Like when I was a kid, I begged my mom for any chore other than picking up the dog mess in the backyard, because I literally would gag to the point of tearing up just picking up dog shit.
Yeah.
And like I've gotten better as I've gotten like out of my teenage years.
Right.
But even to this day, like I will do anything other than
rough,
deal
dude.
with fecal matter.
It's rough. Just something about it just really, it's in the pit of your stomach, and it's like, oof.
Were there people that you worked with that held down that position for a long time?
Yeah, dude. My lead has been there for 8 years.
Yeah.
I
can't even imagine.
No idea how she did it. And, I kind of felt excluded because I was the only white girl.
Really?
The only white girl. And everyone else was Hispanic, so I'd go in the locker room. They're all speaking in Spanish.
Yeah.
And I'd just be sitting there like...
eating your PB&J in the corner.
But, yeah. And, the patients are so weird, too. Like, it'd be 11:30 at night. And it's just like, nurse! Nurse! And it's like... Is somebody gonna go in there? And I have to walk in there because there wouldn't be anyone around. And I'll poke my head in and be like, are you okay? And he's like, no, I need a nurse. And then she walk in there and she's like, hi, Paul, like, is everything okay? And he's like, I gotta use the restroom. And it's like, you're doing all that God. Screaming. But
I know. I mean, just being in hospitals before, I've like walked down the hallway and someone will yell from the room like, hey, get a nurse for me. I'm like, okay.
It's scary.
Don't y'all got a button?
They do. I always tell them, I'm like, you have a nurse button. Why do it's not working? It's turn the TV on. Well, turn the TV off.
Turn the TV off.
Turn the TV off.
There was a day where Joel and I were at the hospital visiting someone. It might have been my family. And we were walking down the hallway, and there was this old black man at the end of the hallway. And from across the hallway, this dude goes, hey, young man. And Joel puts his head down and goes, I go, dude, he could be talking to anyone. And he goes, he's talking to me. Like, hey, young man, I know you hear me. It's like, can you go get a nurse? And he was like, yes, OG.
That's funny that he just knew that he was being spoken to.
It was from down the hall, bro. Like, just, a young man. And he knew immediately.
That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I walk by rooms all the time. And for some reason, like, they'd always think I was a nurse. Maybe just because I'm wearing scrubs. But, like, I wasn't. So they tried to, like, get me to do things. I'm like, oh, like, I can't do that. And I have this one old guy. And he sorry. I had this one old guy, and he was like, then what do you do? And I was like, oh, sir, I'm just here to, like, clean or, get the nurse for you, but I can't do anything for you. But, yeah, it was usually the old men for me. Like, I walked into an old guy's room, and he had his gown, and I had a mop because he peed on the floor, but he was sitting in his bed. And I walk out to, like, put a new, like, mop thing on the bottom of it, and I came back, and his gown is just open, and so I could just see his dingling, and I had to mop under his bed, so my face is near his wee-wee, and it's like, he's not an attractive old man, he's kind of chunky, like, he's obviously a drug addict. Like, he was flaky and had these crazy, like, probably
lesions or whatever.
Yeah, just from drugs and stuff. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
That's the stuff that they put in, like, the horror mazes during Halloween to be like, imagine how awful this would be if it was real.
It's real. And I had to live it.
Oh, well, just with Chloe and, like, all the horror stories she had from when she worked at those, like, old people homes.
Yeah.
And, like, men would be so forward,
Dude,
so grossly forward.
No filter. No filter at all. Like, I'm back at Rancho now, and I deal with men that, like, are married with kids, and they have no filter. But something about old men that are sick in a hospital.
Is that
just
Hail Mary?
They're like, I'm about to die. I might as well. I might as well get it out. Take a chance.
So no head.
Dude, that was traumatizing. I was like, I felt like, this is probably a deep cut. I felt like I was 11 years old again on Omegle with my friends.
Oh my God.
And just like a random wee-wee just pops up. We're all screaming, and it's just like a little.
Oh my God, Omegle.
The little shrimp guy. And I'm like.
I remember I was on Omegle one time with a couple of my friends. And two of them were girls. And this guy, like, comes on and he's like, I want them two to make out. And they were like no, we're cousins. And he was like, I don't care. Like, next. You're like, oh, that was a mild interaction on there.
Dude, the way I was on, like, Kick and, like, Omegle
Kick.
at these young ages, like, those have forever traumatized me. Like, that's
100%.
probably something I need to talk about in therapy, actually, but...
Just think about, like, I always say this, but, like, we were the generation that perfectly timed the internet.
Yeah.
Where we grew up with it, so we learned it very well, and our parents didn't, and they were old enough to not understand it.
Right.
And so we just would be able to log on and see every horror that the world has to offer.
No, literally. I was in a full committed relationship with someone on Kick.
Oh my God.
I've never met this man, never talked to him on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, you're cute. We're dating now. And it's
E-dating?
like, yeah, e-dating. But it was a crazy time, dude.
Yeah, it was like the Wild West too, because since the internet was so new, there was no like parental locks or filters or like things you could report. Mm-hmm. Like I remember Google Images was so fucked that you would type in something and you'd get like maybe like 4 or 5 rows of what you were looking for, but if you dared to go on the second page and click next, anything. Like, oh, that's a dead body.
Yeah. No, it's great.
I mean, 12.
Honestly, like, Twitter's like that now, too. Like, I'll be looking at, like, a cat video, and I scroll down, and it's like, you want to see some...
Yeah. Dude, literally.
And it's like, wait a minute.
I like, can't scroll in public or, like, around family or something because...
It's just unhinged.
Yeah, it's
insane.
Every worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And somehow people still get suspended on that app. And I don't know what you can do to get suspended, like, because I've seen it all.
I mean, Kanye is still...
Bro.
He's still working that.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, he's not suspended.
No.
And, like, people be posting their full-on at-home
sex
videos.
tapes, yeah.
And it's like, no one's getting suspended.
No, literally.
But I say a slur, and now I'm gone.
I know I'm passing, but I can say it.
They just, like, look at my profile and it's like, she doesn't look mixed. Let's suspend her.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Yeah, I kind of, like, reeling it back. I will never be able to understand, like, a huge portion of the male population purely on the entirely, like, disconnected perspective of how they... like not only like approach women but just like think of women. And like the wildest thing is like if the further you go in the past the worse it had been. Like we're currently at the best that it's ever been, and it's not great for a lot. And I know that, I don't know, there are certain guys that I'm friends with, should I say acquaintances with, that like love to lean into the macho male like character, and it's very clearly because they're insecure and they're trying to overcompensate for some of the voices inside. And they'll hear me say, I'm willing to bet that if they listen to this and they heard me say something like oh, the male population and the way that they treat women, they're like, oh, like I'm either pandering or I am being a bitch or something along those lines. But in reality, it's like just so very clearly apparent, and you can still do all of the manly things that you want to do. You can go chop wood and ride a motorcycle and fight a T-Rex as much as you want, and you still also don't have to like not know how to treat a woman. Like I feel like knowing how to treat a woman is a manly thing. It is like something that you should have like male pride in. And I feel like
a lot of the times like that male like strong man who's like trying to flex his muscles and stuff like that is like least attractive to women, because it's like the female gaze and the male gaze. Men, men who get like that is like purely for the male gaze. As much as they think it's for the female gaze, it's not. Like we don't care about that.
Well,
like, you can be as buff as you want, but if you're not treating us right, it really
yeah, but if you're a bitch.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, those are people who are trying to make a bad copy of the qualities that women actually like. That there are men who properly project out good qualities that women find attractive.
Yeah.
And then the guys who are doing like what you're saying are like misunderstanding the core of what those men do, and they're trying to mimic it
Right.
in a false way.
Yeah.
And so when you think about, like, obviously, like, most women like a like man that is bigger and stronger than them.
Right.
But that does not equate to a certain muscular
Yeah.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
And on top of that, them being bigger and stronger is also kind of a means to an end, because when in reality you want to feel like this is someone who can protect you,
Yeah.
if need be,
Right.
and particularly from other men. And if you're dating a guy who's maybe the same like size and weight as you, but is like a professional MMA fighter or like one of the best like firearm users, like they win tournaments and stuff, the build suddenly doesn't matter, because you're with someone who could literally end someone's life if they looked at you the wrong way, and so you feel pretty safe.
Yeah.
But there are guys who completely misunderstand the whole point of that is like to make your girl or your woman feel safe or feel protected if need be, and they just get jacked to the tits and then treat women like shit.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're missing the point.
Yeah, as big and strong as you look, you are just a bitch.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Like,
you are a bitch man.
You kind of, it's like PEMDAS. All that just fucking canceled out now because it doesn't matter.
100%. And I know that like everything's fucking politicized lately, and there are like so many back and forths on like the left thinks this and the right thinks that and blah 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 blah. And I do think that a lot of people on the left are starting to swing the pendulum a little too far and kind of start to like lose a little bit of honesty about, like, I guess we'll just use the example, like male roles or like male behaviors, where they start to get to the point where they're like, well, everything's cultural.
Yeah.
Like everything is debatable, everything is changeable, and certain things are, and I'll always acknowledge that. But when you start to suddenly equate any sort of masculinity with bad, then you're like throwing out the baby with the bathwater, in my opinion. And then you're going to get this like, you're going to particularly only attract like very like androgynous, like middle of the row men who are more than likely too scared of leaning into some of the more masculine parts of themselves due to fear of that judgment because of the spaces that they're in.
Right.
And it's so funny because and I know I'm like kind of vague on this and trying to thread the needle properly. But there's this huge like funny ongoing meme where it talks about how liberal women will like say all of these things online and then go out and fuck a Republican man. Like, and there was this guy who went to I think it was a Kamala Harris like rally or event or something, and he was posing as someone who's left leaning, but I think he was actually right leaning or whatever. But he was going around and asking the women there. He was like, what do you think of like the men here? Like, what are, where are the options or whatever? And the girls would like double check over their shoulders and they'd be like, there's nothing. There's nothing here. And then he would be like, oh, like, what about like Republican men? And then they would be like, oh, I don't want to say that on camera. and I really think that it is a little bit of the like consequence of like throwing the baby out in the bathwater and being like anything with too much testosterone or too much masculinity is like dangerous or going too far and needs to be like limited.
Right.
And you start to lose some of those like best qualities in men if you do that. It's the same thing for women. Like, I think there's just so much sensitive topics right now around gender that like only certain people at certain times should be able to lean into who they are. And then if you're not within that like okayed group of people, then you need to tread lightly.
Right.
And like if you lean into like too much of your femininity, then it's like you're being a pick-me, or you're showing out, or you're trying to get attention, when in reality, like maybe you just are like do a good job of broadcasting your feminine qualities, and that's okay.
Well,
like,
and most of the time, like, women want men that can let them be a little more feminine, because I feel like, you know, we can be independent. Like, I know how to change my tire, or fill it with air, or fix the dishwasher, or you know, little whatever things, because of like how I was raised. And like,
your mom came over here and fixed the garbage disposal.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I did that with my ex-boyfriend, but like I got to a certain point with my ex-boyfriend where it was like I started feeling like the man in the relationship.
Right.
I was the one that always had to confront him about like situations and problems, or talk about our feelings, and he was very like emotionally unavailable. So it was like I always had to drag things out of him. I always asked him to, can you please like plan us a date? Like, not sit on your computer for hours on end, and like actually make an effort to
put energy into the relationship.
Like, I don't want to feel one-sided. And so I feel like girls just like, you know, dating a type of man like that, you start to just kind of be more masculine, and like kind of, I guess I would say I would get like a little meaner, because I was like, I'm kind of like just dating a bitch.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to have to keep asking you. I don't want to keep having to plan things. Like, I understand, like, also, like, you can both do it, but it's like, you know, women don't want to have to ask you to, like, open the car door for them, or, like, buy them flowers, or take them on a date every once in a while. And it's like, you just kind of get comfortable in that situation, and then it's, like, boring. And it's like, nobody wants that. And it's like, I enjoy being able to be a little more feminine and being babied, and not always having to feel like I'm wearing the pants in the relationship or something.
I think, I don't know, like I know that everyone has preferences, and I know that like what we are talking about is particularly only really for the most part centered around straight couples. But the thing is, like, that's the like still the overwhelming population of people,
right?
And so I feel like for instance, if you're bisexual, I feel like it's so much easier to kind of have a more relaxed opinion on what the like gender norms or roles in a relationship can be.
Right.
You're like, okay, like, you know, if like, even if it's so far so to the extent of like a bisexual woman who's also dating like a bisexual man, there is qualities in both of them that they're willing to lean into, and it still feels right, and it doesn't feel off or weird. But if you're particularly like a straight man and a straight woman dating, there are just certain things that are like by the textbook that you can rely on for like repeatable results, and it's just kind of like hard baked into like the animalistic nature, I feel, and that's where it comes from. I think the thing that is really tough for people to admit nowadays is how much control our own animalistic nature has over these topics of relationships and gender roles and all of these things. Like, I know it's so capable and very normal for gender norms and for cultural roles to be questioned and changed and all these things. Like, men in the colonial days used to wear dresses and wigs, and it was seen as masculine and all of this stuff, and that's that's completely fine. But there are just certain key cornerstone aspects, I feel like, that aren't debatable, and there are certain people who like to act like they are debatable, and that's where you are going to lose the argument to like any dumb fuck online who can point out the honest truth,
right,
rather than like
just
overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing, this is like kind of one of my hot takes, is I think the same thing applies for beauty standards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people really have a tough time admitting that, that a lot of the reasons that we find certain looks consistently attractive is because it's been drummed into us over millions of years.
Yeah.
That those key qualities are, that means that this is a healthy mate.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we love straight teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that they have like good oral hygiene.
Yeah.
And that they take care of themselves and they're not like diseased.
Right.
And we love them so much so that people will have fucked up teeth and get veneers, and we can't help but find them more attractive.
Yeah.
Like if you see the before and after of people with veneers, you're like, damn, they look good. And that is our inner nature, like literally controlling whether or not we find someone attractive, even though we know it's like it's fake.
Yeah.
Their fucked up teeth are still behind the veneers, but we don't care.
Well, don't they like shave them down?
Yeah, well, it depends like on the procedures, because like the original veneers, yes,
I was gonna say
they
I've seen
shave
people
them
with
down.
like little shark-looking teeth.
Yeah,
because they shave them down and then they like put
the caps like on them.
That sounds scary.
But there are newer ones where they just put it over.
Oh, okay.
But they're like not as strong.
Okay.
Not as like durable, from my understanding.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, and so there are certain sensitive topics for people, like if someone's overweight.
Yeah.
And there are people who are willing to say that they don't think how overweight someone is changes whether or not that they're beautiful.
Right.
And I feel like what they're saying is like, this doesn't change your value as a human being, which is correct.
Yes.
But then there are people who are like straight up lying and saying like, oh, like this doesn't make you any less attractive. It's like, unfortunately it does.
Yeah.
And no matter how much we like say it out loud, it doesn't ever actually change what people think in their own head.
Yeah.
And that is just something that I think applies to everyone. I think women have a tougher time in the space because beauty standards are particularly
with social media and
different for them. But like I just feel like it's so unfair to like look at someone and lie to them about that. Mm-hmm. Like if you really cared and you're really their friend, you would just be honest, even if it's uncomfortable. Then you get
in like a predicament where it's like, if you're dating a guy and he's like, oh, I don't care about weight or something like that. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, and you might be like a heavier set girl. Mm-hmm. Then you go through the motions of like, you know, with social media, him liking pictures of only skinny girls.
Right. Right.
And it's like, date your type then.
Yeah. Or just be honest.
Just be honest. And it's like, you know, that's not for everyone and that's okay. Like, I understand that. Like, for me, I think everyone's beautiful in their own weights, but I think what makes you unattractive if you're like super overweight is just not taking care of yourself.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's an indicator that someone's not living a healthy life.
Yeah, because I know that like sometimes it's harder for people to lose the weight, and like I'm not saying everyone needs to be a certain body weight or anything, but like, you know, be healthy and like take care of yourself, because then it's like, you know, shows a lot on your end.
Of course, yeah.
I don't want to like that TV show. What's that TV show about the two really big ladies?
Oh, like My 700-Pound Life or some shit like that.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Like she can't even walk up the stairs.
No, yeah, and
that's insane.
People have no problem talking about other aspects of self-care with like ruthlessness. Yeah. In the same way, like if someone had like their teeth rotting out of their mouth because they just never brush their teeth, people would put them through hell. They'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're disgusting. Take care of yourself. Like, this is unacceptable. Yeah. But if you say that same exact sentence for a different form of hygiene or self-care, it is like the most like rude thing you could ever say. Yeah. And I just think it's particularly because specifically here in America, we have like epidemic, they call it, of obesity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just such a sensitive topic. But like people who come from other countries and come here, they're like, oh my God, everyone's fat.
Yeah.
Like everyone. And that's why it's turned into this weird, like, fake conversation of like, no, it doesn't change how you look at all. Like, you are coping with the fact that everyone, probably yourself and all of your friends, are like also big.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than everyone kind of collectively admitting like, hey,
yeah,
we're putting ourselves on track to be like at risk for diabetes and heart disease and an early death, like maybe we should do something about this and
we're gonna
be
end
better.
Up like Wally.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we're all gonna be riding around those little floating chairs, getting milkshakes delivered to us.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I just wish that people, because it also doesn't help that there are other people who hate on the kind-hearted people who are lying about weight not being a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Like people go and be like, no, you're just as attractive as her.
Right.
And then there's those people online who like bash people who say that, where they're like, oh no, she's a fat pig, like fuck that, blah blah blah. It's like those people, even though maybe they do have the right opinion, which is like weight does play a factor in attractiveness, they are adding to the problem, not to the solution, and they're making those other people double down on where they're at.
Because I follow a content creator, and she's like a little like on the heavier side,
Mm-hmm.
but she'll post like bikini pics and stuff, and just like outfits that other person would wear,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like people will full on just
tear her to
you're
shreds.
too fat to be wearing that,
Mm-hmm.
like put some more clothes on or something like that. And I'm like, that's insane, because it's like she's a really pretty girl, and like sometimes like the thickerness fits people better.
Absolutely.
Like, but then there's just like that point where it's like diabetes, like
Yeah,
the unhealthy end
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
which I'm not saying she's unhealthy, but I'm saying like too big is
like
getting unhealthy.
100%. I think if a like Korean woman lived a healthy lifestyle and a Samoan woman lived a healthy lifestyle, like they would look very different in terms of weight.
Right.
But it's still like, in my opinion, like pretty easy to tell when someone's living a healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
And and that's where the whole topic and conversation about every different body type being beautiful and all that stuff, that's where that stuff actually like shines through and is true, is because both of these people are doing it right and look different.
Yeah.
Therefore, you shouldn't be bashing them because they look different.
Right. Because sometimes it's just genetics.
100%.
Hormones. Like, there's so many factors that play into it. So, you know, if you don't like a heavier set woman, don't date a heavier set woman.
Yeah. And my whole thing, though, is like people just don't want to admit when they're not living a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
They want to act like, oh, well, no, it's just my genetics. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, you could just own up to the fact that you're just not taking care of yourself, and that's fine. Like, no one is forced to take care of themselves. Like, you can go out and you can smoke like 8 packs of cigarettes a day and drink a whole bottle of vodka and never exercise once, and no one will ever force you to not do that. But you just have to put value enough on your life to know that you want to take care of yourself.
That. Yeah.
And like, I know it's not easy. Like, it is a lifestyle commitment.
Yeah.
Like, I last year lost 20 pounds and put it back on.
Right.
Like, it just happens. And in order for, and I like will be able to look at myself and acknowledge that happened and go, okay. And the only way to fix it, I have to acknowledge it first and then move forward. But there's just like so much shaming around that conversation that people either don't want to talk about it at all or don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, it's there are just always going to be physical qualities that make you more or less attractive, and you have the choice of whether or not you are going to like learn what they are and take advantage of that fact or not do anything about it. But like, just because you don't want it to be that way doesn't mean you get to decide then how like society collectively finds something attractive or not. Like, there, like, I know that it's the equated conversation on the male side, but like height will always be a factor.
Yeah.
And like, women have no problem communicating that. And of course, like, but that's the thing is it's just a factor.
Yeah.
It's not
It's all preferences.
Yeah.
It's all like, you know, if you want a tall guy, if you want a short guy, some people genuinely just don't care.
Yeah, and most of the time it's just the girl's thing is taller than me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
you don't gotta be like 6'4".
Yeah, like the
like
5'2" queens don't need to be taken up to 6'4".
No.
Man, like you can find yourself a nice 5'6" lad.
Because like I'm 5'6",
Right.
so I want to be able to like, not that I ever wear heels, but
Right,
like
the option.
on a occasion, if I wear them, I don't want to be hovering over you
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I don't know, it just doesn't feel. I don't feel protected.
Right.
You know? I
That's
don't
what
feel
I'm
like I don't know.
But also at the same time, like if you like hypothetically were dating a guy where you wore heels and you were like the same height as him or like an inch taller, but he had those other qualities that like absolutely made you feel protected.
Yeah,
it's probably not.
It
as
wouldn't matter.
Much, yeah,
I mean that's like my mom, my dad. My mom
Right.
is taller than
yeah,
Jim,
but Jim's a fucking
and
hunk.
yeah, exactly. But like he has all the attributes you could probably ever possibly want in a man.
Right.
Like he treats her like an angel. Like
yeah.
he spoils that woman,
Mhm.
and it's like.
And then
so
on top
height
of that,
doesn't care.
he's like
Built.
he's muscular.
Yeah.
He
Fireman.
is active, strong, like
yeah, takes care of himself.
yes, and so all of those things completely outweigh one
Yeah.
small factor of height.
Yeah.
But like there always will be a certain limit where it's like, okay, like, like unfortunately, like there are guys out there that are like 5'1", and you have a very specific case where you have to be aiming for like a very specific woman.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to like really work on the other aspects because you were just dealt a shit hand and that sucks.
Which
like,
is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Shout out to our short kings.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with women who are like 6'4", 6'5", like just the random anomalies that are so tall.
Mm-hmm.
Like I probably wouldn't date someone like that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like anything personal, but like if I am single and I have the choice, then I get to make the choice. Like
right,
that's
exactly.
how it is.
Yeah.
But it's also, I don't know, personally, I kind of take it as like a fun little challenge,
Mm-hmm.
where I go, okay, there are aspects about myself I cannot change.
Mm-hmm.
Put those away. Don't focus on them. Focus purely on the ones that I have control over, like my charisma or my income or my level of fitness. And then see how attractive I can make myself in those areas,
Mm-hmm.
and watch and see if you can pull someone who normally wouldn't go for you because of the things you can't control.
Yeah.
But you've done so well in the areas you can control. They're like, you're not normally my type, but like,
but
like you caught my eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've been told that before, and it's
Mhm.
like such a huge little like confidence boost
Yeah.
where someone's like, you're not my type, but like you won me over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, see, like, God, there are certain people that I could like lecture
Yeah.
where I'm like, look, like you don't like need to beat yourself up over
Mhm.
certain qualities. Like you should put everything into the ones you can change, and you'll surprise yourself with who you could end up with.
Yeah. Speaking of qualities in a person,
Go ahead.
what are some of your like icks?
I fucking love this topic. I'm so excited. I know we talked
I
about
know, yeah.
going into it before we started recording, but okay. And that's the thing is, I think probably the majority. It's good segue. First of all, fantastic segue.
I was waiting for that one. I was like, this is a perfect
spot.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, most of my icks are things that people can control. Like I don't have a lot of like non-changeable icks.
Do you get icks like in a relationship?
What do you mean? Like a
when you're
temporary ick, or
because
like
there's like icks of like if you're talking to a guy and you know he
has to chase after a receipt in the wind?
Yeah, like if you keep having to text him first, or
right.
you know, all he likes is like Sydney Sweeney Karina Koff pictures on his timeline, and his search bar is just, you know, all of that. Like that's an ick for me. Like I don't want to date a guy who's just like that thirsty and lustful. Yeah. But if you're in a relationship, do you know, because like once you're in a relationship, you find certain things that they do like endearing and cute or funny, or you know, you're not technically
Mm-hmm.
making fun of them or going like, ew, why did she
Yeah.
do that? Like, do you find yourself getting like that in a relationship?
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal actually,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll never date your ideal
Right.
like perfect partner, and if you ever found someone that perfect, you're not perfect yourself, so you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't even be able to keep up.
Yeah.
I think one for me is this is a big one for me, is not being able to read a room.
Yeah.
If I'm dating
Ooh.
someone and they say something that like is missing the mark hard because they cannot
Yeah.
read the room, I literally want to like exit the space,
Just gonna remove
because it's like
myself.
you're a representation of me.
Yeah.
And if I'm not signing off on
Mm-hmm.
what you just did or said.
Right.
And it doesn't even have to be like particularly disrespectful, but just like straight up like
What was
socially inept.
that? Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, like, and
Yeah.
and so that one, I don't know, hygiene is a big one for me. And like I think that publicly people are way too hard on the hygiene topic.
Mm-hmm.
I think like everyone loves to judge others on their hygiene, so much so that they need to be like perfectly squeaky clean all the time.
Right.
And I think that that's unrealistic. And I think if you actually get in a relationship with a loving partner and you're that close to someone,
Yeah.
you get to see their hygiene habits.
Yeah.
You get to realize that if their hygiene habits got posted on Twitter, they would get torn to shreds. But in reality, it's really not that bad.
Right.
Like, oh no, you didn't shower for 2 days. Like,
yeah.
it's
Like, I've been
it's
there.
winter.
Like if I don't go out, like if I've been in the house for 2 days, I'm getting in bed.
Yeah, 100%.
Not gonna take a shower.
Yeah.
Unless,
Yeah.
I feel like I need to or want to. But
yeah, or people like, I don't know, and this is just me personally, but like also when I shower, like not every single shower needs like a full body loofah scrub.
Yeah.
Like I have my quick rinses that I do
Rinse
and my
off, yeah.
and stuff, because like I don't know, every expert dermatologist or people that are actually in the space are like,
Mhm.
dude, you just wash yourself when you smell bad, or when
Yeah.
you can physically feel that you're gross, and you wash the parts that are gross, and like you're good, like that's
Right.
healthy, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then there's like the whole topic online and all that
Yeah.
stuff, and I didn't mean to derail it. But do you have inside relationship icks? I'll get into the ones that I have like just when meeting someone after, but
I feel like I asked a question and I wasn't prepared.
wasn't prepared for it to
I
up
wasn't
audio.
prepared.
We can circle back.
I would say just like emotionally unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't like the coldness in a person. Like if I'm crying and you just act just so unbothered by it, like that's gonna like
turn it off,
turn me off
Yeah.
immediately. Like I like a man that can show emotion and like empathy
yeah,
and
yeah,
sympathy
be vulnerable,
and be vulnerable. Like I don't want to date a brick wall.
right?
And so I feel like if we're having a discussion and I'm crying or something like that and you're just kind of like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you can go to sleep while I'm crying, that's insane. That's like outright insane.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Because that to me is just like, you just turned it off. You're
Right.
like, I don't care.
Right.
Like
It takes it takes
yeah.
it takes a certain level of apathy to be able to do that. For me, my number one, and I like we said it during the drinking game last night actually, but my number one ick is insecure.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, and this isn't me like shaming people, because I don't think that shaming someone for being insecure is what actually
Right.
helps.
It's how
But
you portray it.
yeah, but if I'm allowed my own preferences, like I have dated insecure women before.
Mm-hmm.
It is not sustainable. It is not
Yeah.
fun. You do not get to be a free human.
Yeah.
I've seen men that I currently know in relationships with very insecure women, and like they're not allowed to talk to women
That's
in
crazy.
public. Like that, like at a old job, I had a coworker who couldn't acknowledge another coworker in public because they were a woman, and particularly an attractive woman. Because and so when we got back to work,
Mm-hmm.
they said, why didn't you say hi?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I was with my wife. Like, I would have started a fight.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I have my own insecurities too, and I've gone through my fair share of being around like our attractive friends and stuff like that. And it's like, of course we can acknowledge like a pretty person.
Right.
It's just like the actions toward it. Like, don't, you know.
Don't do too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my thing is like, if I get a whiff of someone having insecurities that are problematic to the point where it would poison the relationship, you will never even get a shot.
Yeah.
Like, I won't even look your way. And that's just because I personally think if anyone is ever going to have like a true, healthy, sustainable, long-term relationship, then both people should not only have worked on their own insecurities, but still actively always working on them moving forward, because you will never be able to change your partner, and all you can do is improve yourself to either A, help your partner also feel the space to improve, or find yourself a partner that's worth your value. And like every single relationship that I have seen where people are so genuinely happy that they have never fought once and they could sustain that over the long term, because it is real, it exists, is when both parties have healthy self-esteem, healthy self-worth, and that's like, I don't want people to think that I mean like any insecurity at all. Like, you have to be perfect over everything. It's just when
you're letting it,
but when you
control your relationship at that point.
Like, that's the thing that a lot of people don't factor in, is when you're getting in a relationship with someone long term, like, you are bringing them into everything about you. And if you have parts of yourself that you hate, so much so to the point that you won't acknowledge it, won't talk about it, won't put a good foot forward about it, and you act like it doesn't exist, it will seep into your behavior, into the way that you trust your partner, into your dynamic, and that will poison the relationship slowly, and you'll never be able to move forward. And it's unfortunate, but like, everyone has their own personal self-imposed duty to make sure that you are the best version of yourself possible for your lover. And so I will I will run out of the room if I find out that I'm on a date or finding interest in someone that's like particularly like problematically insecure.
I mean, because like, I have my fair share of like, you know, if my boyfriend says something about like an attractive woman on the television, honestly, it just depends my mood sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, like, she is pretty, or like we'll bounce back, but then like, also just being a woman with the hormones that I have, sometimes I'm like, hey, like, that hurt my feelings, or like, you know, I don't look like that, so sometimes I get in my head, and it's like, but you know, that's just the way it is sometimes with attractive people on TV. But before, I feel like at the beginning of my relationship, I was kind of a wreck, like, especially coming from a relationship where I was really only dating myself, and it's like, I'd get dressed up to go somewhere, and he's just on his computer, doesn't acknowledge me, or, you know, doesn't, you know, compliment me. Like, you know, I like random compliments every now and then. I don't want to have to like drag it out of you.
No, that's not
like,
not
I also
proper.
like when I get compliments when I'm just being lazy and you know, comfortable, or when I do get dressed up. But it's like, that never, you know, in our sex life was like nothing. So I just felt so insecure. And then, you know, him getting in a relationship with my friend
right after
will also do that to you.
I think
your self-esteem. So
and like, it's normal for someone to feel the ways that you felt, and I just think the misstep was thinking that you were the reason. You know, like, it's like taking on blame you should have never taken on. Like, you were with someone who did not have proper emotional maturity, and you felt like that was your fault.
Well, at one point I was like, he's gotta be gay. I was like, there's no way. And, you know, I was confident enough to be like, okay, I look good today. How does he not want
anything.
anything.
Yeah.
You know, I tried to pull the like while he's gaming, going in there and being like, you want to, you know, have a good time, and it was just like, babe, I'm playing, like, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you should you should see that as very telling of him,
right?
Not of yourself.
Yeah.
Because like I talk the talk because I can walk the walk. Like when I'm saying I want a confident partner, it's because I know that I can also be one,
right?
And provide that in a relationship. But like even when I was in my last relationship, I had my insecure moments, you know, where I was very much so in my head about like another man or about how I'm coming off or like certain things. The only difference is I just let those thoughts enter and pass.
See,
and I don't identify with them.
Like if I'm feeling a certain way about something and it's like, you know, dating the person I'm dating now and, you know, being friends with you, I've realized certain things aren't as deep and serious as they are. Where like liking someone's picture of like a girl that is like our friend will make me feel a certain type of way because that's just not something I was used to in my last relationship. And
an inner worry.
But so then like when I see it in my current one, it like makes my head route. Like I just spiral.
Yeah.
But you know, and I can recognize that and understand that nothing's being
like it's coming from
wrong.
Your end.
It still makes me feel a certain way.
Of course.
To be honest, I think it always will, but I think it's just the matters of social media itself.
Yeah,
and, like the, you know, societal standards that women have and
well, there's also the difference in like how like what that person's relationship is with the girl and what the girl's post is actually like.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and so that's why
if you barely know them and it's lingerie, like that's kind of telling. But if it's like someone that you see very regularly and have a good relationship with, and it's just like a normal, like properly clothed selfie, like then like, you know,
and
good for you.
And for a while I've just kind of been like, well, if you're in a relationship, like, do you feel the need? And also sometimes it's not even like the liking of the picture, it's like it was like in my head where it's like, do you have to like that picture, like of another person, another female face?
Right, but that's the thing is like the difference between have to and just like how you view a friend.
Exactly, and so like that was something that like, you know, I'm still currently like learning and adjusting to, and like I always have my certain feelings about it, but you know, I want to be able to be like, hey, I know you didn't do anything wrong, but it still kind of like makes me feel a certain way. Not that I need like any change from you, but it's just like I want to be able
you want to be reassured.
Reassured and still just be able to say how I feel about certain things without it being like, oh, you're being insecure. And it's like, you know, like that's not what I was looking for.
I may have said this before on the podcast, so for anyone who listens to like every episode, I apologize in advance if I'm repeating myself. The thing that changed, so I'm sharing with you something that changed heavily how I view the thoughts that go through my head, and it is the fact that you do not author your own thoughts. You don't write them up. They get created by your brain and then appear in consciousness, and you observe them, and then you identify with that thought. That's me. That came from me, so it's me.
Right. And
then you, based off, once you identify with the thought, you either like feel a certain emotion about it or you act on it. And the thing that like blew my mind was once you acknowledge that you actually are not the author of your own thoughts, you don't have to feel bad about what you thought.
Right.
Your brain is automatically reacting to inputs that it just got and pumping out a response, and you can just let it go. Like you can just watch it cross your consciousness and then fade away. You can even, sometimes you'll get some emotional turmoil from it, but you don't have to be like, oh, that's me. And the thing that the exercise that it pointed out to me was this guy said, think of any city in the world, and once you have that city in mind, he'll say, why did you think of that one in particular? Why didn't you think of Cairo in Egypt, or Osaka in Japan, or Beijing in China? You thought of Paris.
Right.
And when you realize that, like, your idea of I can do whatever I want, or I can choose anything I want, doesn't work quite the way that you've always been told that it does. You recognize that your brain is just on auto mode all the time, pumping out sentences into your consciousness, and it does not care if it's being rational. It does not care if it's being particularly fair or accurate. It is just responding. And so, like, if I'm in a relationship and I'm out in public and a gorgeous woman walks by, in my head I'm like, damn, she looks good. I didn't get to control whether or not that came into my head.
Right.
And I will never be able to change, like, the human nature to just recognize that someone's attractive.
Yeah.
And then in the same breath, if so I don't have to beat myself up for thinking that I'm like a bad, lustful boyfriend because I thought that. Because if you actually get very vulnerable with people, everyone does it.
Yeah.
And it works the same way with insecurities. So if you're laying with your boyfriend and you're watching a movie, and and a particularly attractive woman comes on screen, and you know that we're both right now in the moment thinking, damn, she looks good in this. But then you also think, like, but I don't look like her. You don't have to make yourself feel bad that your brain thought that.
Yeah.
Your brain just recognized something, and you can just, like, let it pass on. Like, yep, my brain just pumped that out. Like, it's totally normal to think that. And I don't have to believe that it's actually saying something of truth or value
about
that's
me.
or anything rational. And so there are just, like, so many times where, like, someone will do something stupid and I literally will judge them in my head. And then, but I'll know that it's just my brain pumping a response out that I didn't get to control, and I can move on. I can not attach to it, not identify with it. Because if you're actively building yourself to be the person that you want to be, your brain will pump out more, like, better responses and more accurate things to your identity, but it'll never be fully rational. You'll always be this, like, dumb, irrational ape. And so you just have to be able to, like, adapt with that.
Yeah, and just, like, kind of move past it. Yeah, because I was definitely, like, a person that would think something and just let it consume me. Yeah. It would ruin, like, my whole day. Or, like, how I acted towards my partner. Especially when I was in my last relationship. Like, I would think something, and then it would just, my whole day would be ruined.
It'd consume you.
Yeah. And it was really bad.
Well, that was probably because you believed it. Yeah. And why else would you think it if it wasn't true, you know? But if you allow yourself that grace to be like, my brain is going to pump out bullshit like all the time. Yeah. And I just need to let it do it so that, I can exist. Yeah, I can exist properly. Okay, ick number 2.
Anyway,
but no, I actually still kind of want to reel it back into that a little bit. Is there anything else you want to say on that topic? I kind of ran with it. Do you want to add an ick then? I did mine of, like, confidence and that whole thing. And it does, and this is, let's do, like, first date icks, or, like, just meeting someone icks.
I'm trying to think. I would say, like, a super, like, pushy, like, pushing towards sex, like, first date.
Like, super thirsty,
super, like, he came here for one thing only. Right. And it's like, he makes it very known. I've been on a date like that before where we went and got drinks, and it was just immediately, like, he was not afraid to make it known that that's what he wanted.
Yeah, like he's trying to skip the night.
And I was like, now I don't want to hang out with you.
Right, it's
because I'm like, that's not what I, like, even if I was there for that, something about it
you gotta play the game right.
Yeah, something about it just being, like, laid out for me right on the table is, like, icky to me.
Yeah,
I'm like, you could have held it back, like, a little more and then kind of made a smooth move. But if you're just laying it all on the table, I'm like, oh, you're, like, kind of easy.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm like
100%. No, I've I know it's rarer, but I've also experienced that as a guy where I'm like, girl, stand up.
Stand up, please. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I've never been like that with anyone. I've never just been like, just laying it out there like that.
Yeah, and well, it shows desperation.
Yeah.
Like it shows that like you want it so bad because you probably never
Especially
get
like
it.
on a first date, like that's insane. Like if you just want to hook up, just say that. Yeah. Just like make that known. Don't really.
But I don't know, personally, like you still have to establish like that chemistry.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to be able, because like I've experienced like hooking up with someone on a first date before, but if it was awkward, it was because there was none of that chemistry building. But if it happened, most of the time it was just because like, oh, like, holy shit, like we got this ball rolling and like I don't know if we're gonna stop it.
Right.
But that's because it was done the right way. But yeah, like when you're just straight to the point, like not even like entertaining, like proper conversation. Yeah.
It doesn't make me want you.
Yeah. I'll add another one for me. Like, and I know like we just talked about this, so bear with me for repeating myself. But it's intelligence. It's like, and intelligence, in my opinion, is different than being knowledgeable. I think intelligence for me deals a lot more with like social dynamics, how common sense, how rational are you, how emotionally mature are you. I love people who are like witty and sharp and on their toes and stuff. Like it makes like it adds like a little fire to the dynamic. And I also like am saying this as someone who I believe I have those qualities, but I believe like it just depends on the day. I'm not expecting like, oh, I get an ick because they have one day where they're like not at their best. But it's more or less like consistently your personality trait, if that's something that you're like. And then in the same breath, I really do love knowledgeability as well, or just like someone who is well read, someone who
people who like to learn. Always wanting to learn new things and like educate themselves on stuff,
and just like on the world and how it works, and whether it be like science, history, literature, the arts, whatever. Even if you're very knowledgeable on mathematics, like stuff like that is super attractive to me because it shows that there's like a human in there with desire and like passion to understand this crazy world that we live in. And that's something that I like very much so relate to, and that's something that's very attractive in a partner. And so if I'm talking to a girl and I hear her particularly like talk about some crazy conspiracy theory that she has that is like not grounded in reality at all, I know it's kind of weird, but that's a huge turnoff for me. I'm like, oh, you're not well read. Like anyone who has proper knowledge on like basic level understanding of science could immediately like dispel that conspiracy theory because it's literally physically impossible or something like that. But you're like communicating to me that you don't care to know the truth. You don't care to know the reality of the world and how it works. And so when like you're going off about some insane,
the earth is round.
Like,
oh wait,
the earth is round.
The earth is round.
Ooh, Maya.
The earth is flat.
But yeah, like, or like, you know, there's like this one legit pisses me off, and I'll probably actually hurt someone's feelings when I say this because there's probably someone who's listening who believes
that the earth
this.
is round.
Yeah, God, don't get me started on those rounders. Is people who think that there's a cure to cancer, and there has been for like hundreds of years or decades or whatever. And
You'd
that, like,
hate my dad.
And
Not Jim, my biological father.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like they're like, there's a cure to the cancer. There's a cure to cancer, and we've had it for decades, and they just suppress it. And because they suppress our medicine so that we can buy their drugs and this whole thing. It literally is such a huge ick. I'm like, if you had any concept of how cancer works in the body, you would understand why it's so hard to cure, and why like cancer is a umbrella term for multiple different cancerous diseases that all have different cures required in order for it to even work. Like you can't cure brain cancer the same way that you would be able to cure like muscular cancer or cancer in your stomach or whatever. And anyone who knows anything, even the slightest amount of like the body, understands how hard of a problem it is and why it has cursed us as humans for so long. Yeah. But if some girl says that to me, I literally would not date her. My dad will literally be like, you just gotta take echinacea and, you know, stay out of the sun and make sure you don't go through the metal detectors in the airport. Turn off your 5G Wi-Fi. And Justin Bieber's an alien. Like, those are the conversations he has with me, and I'm like, no. I know that certain people genuinely love to bond over that stuff, but I'm like, it's two brain cells talk about exactly, like, it's so not for me. No. And if you like that, and you like that in a partner, like, by all means, like, find your fellow tinfoil hat wearer and ride off into the sunset. But like, I don't know, I take pride in the amount of reading and learning that I've done in all of these fields recreationally, just because I care about life, and I want that in a partner. I literally will not like change my mind on something like that. Yeah. And so it's just like you just say that around me, and there's nothing wrong. Like, I will say, like, I will still be your friend. Like, still, like, love you to death. Like, we could still hang out, get drinks, like, do whatever, have a good time. Like, some of my best friends are interesting, to say the least. And so, like, it's not a particular issue with you as a person or your value. I just wouldn't date you. Yeah. And that's fine. I wouldn't want that. That's like the same for me as like someone who's really political. Mm-hmm. I can't. Mm-hmm. I don't really know enough about politics to really sit and have those type of conversations, but I just wouldn't want to date someone that's like, it just controls like a lot of things in their life. Like genuinely alters their mood on a regular basis. Yeah, and I'm like, it's just unattractive to me. Mm-hmm. Kind of to each their own. Kind of thing goes the same for religion for me. Yeah. You know, I grew up Christian, but I think when you're super religious, it gets a little scary. Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's a little culty at times. You gotta like, people gotta find. I think like some of the longest lasting relationships happen because of certain like religious practices, kind of like forcing people to like be like conform on values. Like, that's kind of why it works, is like you need that alignment in more like in morality and values in what you want in life, and religion kind of like forces people to align on those things. Right. And so if you can date within your religion, like, it's so much easier to make it work, because we both believe the same things, we both want the same things, we both think the man and the woman have certain roles, and that's great, and move on. But you know, I agree, because it's like, if it becomes your whole personality, like, it also very much so limits what you can do, who you can hang out with, what you can enjoy in life. And like you said, like, to each their own. But I dated a guy that was a Mormon, and so when I used to drink, okay. Simmer down, buddy. When I used to drink in front of him, like, I always felt judged, and I was of age. That's weird. Like, I was of the age, but like, which he was a big talker. Cause babe, it's just coffee. No, literally, he would drink the strawberry acai drink from Starbucks, and I was like, you know that's caffeine, right? He's like, no, it's not, and I'm like, you're shaking. Yeah, it is. It's literally you're shaking. I was like, that's caffeinated. All their drinks are caffeinated. Yeah, we had a hardcore Mormon at my last job, and we made him down a liter of Coke. And he did it. I was like, hell yeah, man. You're one of the cool ones.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't full. It was like a quarter
okay.
of it left. But we were like,
how do you feel?
we were
after
like
that?
chanting. We were like, yeah. Well, he drinks soda.
Oh,
like it's his
I
little.
don't understand that.
Well, he knows. Like it's his little guilty pleasure, but he does it anyway.
I don't understand that.
I'm
yeah,
like, hell yeah, brother.
But yeah, I can't do the hardcore religious things.
Yeah.
Which I don't. I still believe that there's like I would like to believe that there's a heaven because when I have family or my pets die, I want to believe that they're going somewhere and I'll see them again one day. But I just don't let it consume me. Like I don't go to church every Sunday. I don't read the Bible.
Right.
I don't.
Well, I mean, it's your choice. Like
yeah.
it's your own personal relationship that you want to develop.
Like if you want to talk to me about God, like I'm not gonna. Except if I'm walking around in Target and you try to tell me about premarital sex,
right?
Then I'm gonna walk away.
Right.
But
yeah, and I mean, and it's funny. Like we're calling them icks, but like it really is like very important things to be on the same page about.
Right.
I'm trying to think of another one. I think I don't know. For me, it's also like the older I get, and I do my best to keep up my side so that I can ask this of whoever my partner is, but it's honesty.
Yeah.
It's like, and I know like, oh, what a fucking deep cut, like white boy in his room with a microphone and talk about honesty in a relationship. But it is talked about a lot, but it is not practiced in the way that people talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
And, but like, it's particularly, especially when someone is not honest with themselves.
Yeah.
Because this is where they get caught up. When you're not honest with yourself, you will believe a lie in order to cope. And then when you tell someone else what you believe, you actually believe it, but it's because you refuse to acknowledge the actual truth. So if someone called them a liar, they'll be like, oh, I didn't lie. Like, I actually think this. And it's like, you actually think this because way back earlier at some point, you lied to yourself.
Right.
In order to emotionally get over something that made you feel threatened or made you feel insecure.
Yeah.
And rather than doing the hard thing, you chose the easy route. And now you are going off. And that's the thing, is just because you fooled yourself does not mean you're fooling everyone else around you.
And it's like, it's okay to be wrong, too.
100%.
I can't stand when people think they're always right. Well, like, I just, you can take, what's the word I'm looking for? You can admit to your faults. Like, it's okay if you weren't right. If maybe you had a certain thing going on and whatever. But it's like, once they're, like, lying to themselves and then going and talking to other people about it, and it's, like, not the same story or...
Yeah, and they genuinely get confused. That's the thing, is, like, when you can easily, like, I don't know, I can sniff out when someone's lying to themselves.
Yeah.
It's super easy for me. And when I can tell, I just like I look them in the face and I go, okay. And then I act on what I actually believe, and people will notice that. They'll notice that I'm not actually acting in within accordance of what they're telling me.
Right.
And they get kind of confused or offended. And I'm like, just because you're lying to yourself doesn't mean that I've bought the same like bullshit that you're selling.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean that I am now going to have to adjust how I behave around you in order to fit this idea.
Well, especially if you want like genuine advice about something.
100%.
Like if you're trying to do better as a person or save your relationship, or you can't lie to yourself. Like you have to admit your faults. Like if I'm talking to you, like I'm telling you everything I did wrong, because I also want to know where I went wrong.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to live in my own world, in my own bubble, and think, oh, I'm just a perfect person. I didn't do anything wrong. Because then it's just like, well, no, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And like, I think a huge beef that I have that's connected to that is people know the game.
Yeah.
Right? Of like honesty. And if they're actually being honest versus like just doing their absolute best to just win over every interaction. And the things that people do to like try to play this stupid game and think that they're winning is they'll add little caveats to stuff. So they'll say like, I could be wrong, but and then they go off and say this bullshit that they are absolutely like so sure that they're right about, just so if it came back, they'd be like, well, I said I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. Like, you can tell when someone genuinely is like, I actually have no idea. Here's my hypothesis. Like, this is maybe my theory on what might be going on. But then there are people who are like, I could be wrong, but like, I think it's because they're a bitch. Like, X, Y, Z. And then the second thing that like I beef with is people who then will just apologize for the sake of just apologizing and getting them off your ass. Yeah. It's like, again, sorry means I'm not going to do it again. Sorry means I feel remorse. It genuinely hurt me that I fucked up. Enough so that I'm coming to you, asking for forgiveness and telling you that I won't do it again. Or I sure as fuck will try my best not to.
Right. Like that improvement. Like, sorry, it means absolutely nothing if it's just a repeating behavior.
Yes. And so like the thing that it just gets under my skin, or I guess like you can call it like a form of an ick, is when they're just like, that lack of honesty is just like developing like through all of these different aspects, where I'm like, there are certain people that, I won't say this to their face, but there are certain people where I want to be like, never fucking apologize to me again. Just change. Like just like change. Stop doing what you're doing. It's just a
word coming out of your mouth at 100%. This point. Like, it means nothing.
It means jack shit.
And that's a scary place to get to, where it's like, now your sorries mean nothing. Like, 100%. Now it's just change. And it's like, well, you should be apologizing and then changing. But if I get to the point where I'm like, your sorries mean nothing to me, then it's, I don't know. Yeah,
you have a lot of work ahead of you. And most of the time, I will not be sticking around for it. Like, you still need to do this work.
They hit you with that, I already said I was sorry.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay,
or like,
cool.
Or like, why, or if you bring it up, they're like, why are we talking about this again? Like, I already apologized. And it's like, that's not what... That's not the fucking point of an apology.
Things linger, you know? Especially with me, like, I'm not a type of person that just gets over things that quick. Like, I need a moment. I'm a very emotional person. I feel a lot of things. And so, you know, I don't want to get hit with the, well, I don't understand why you're still upset.
And that's like my thing when if I operate with someone that's more like you, in like any sort of relationship, even friendship, because that occasionally you'll get into like places where you hurt your friends' feelings and you want to make sure that you do right by them and all that stuff. I will ask them straight up. I'll be like, okay, like, are we past this? Like, have we solved the issue? And they'll be like, yes, but I still like am hurting, or I still feel a certain type of way. And like, I feel things, it's not going to go away like immediately. And I'm like, that's fine. And then I'll ask like, what do you need from me? Or like, how much time do you normally need, so that I don't bother you or get frustrated that I would have gotten over it by this point. Because like, I'm the opposite. Like, I get over things really quickly. But I know that doesn't mean that I'm right. That just means that that's how I operate.
And as someone who's like pretty emotional, that's like a really great question to ask. Like, what can I do for you? Because it's like, yes, I'm aware you've already apologized. Like, I know you're trying to move past it. Because then I start feeling bad that like I'm kind of still holding on to it. Killing the vibe. Ruining the moment. You know, I get in my head like, oh, we were having such a good time and now I'm ruining the moment because these feelings got brought back up again or whatever. But that's such a great question to ask someone who's like emotional, because, you know, we don't want to feel like we're dragging you down too, or trying to make anything worse, or, you know, so.
Well, that's, because I want to know that even if you're not communicating, that I'm doing what you need me to do. And so a lot of the times it's like, that person just needs their space. And so what I'll do is be like, hey, like, if we're living in the same house, I'll be like, I'm gonna go in another room. I'm gonna give you your time, and when you're ready, come to me. Or if it's we're not in the same place, but like we're butting heads over text, I'll say like, let's take some time to just like cool off separately. Text me when you feel better. And then I can go about my day guilt-free, knowing that like I'm not hung up on it emotionally, and they are, but I know that I'm doing what they need me to do for them to get to where I'm at.
Because they just don't want, you know, like, I don't want to bring something up. Like, that's my biggest pet peeve, is like when I bring something up that you did that's bothering me, and if you get upset that I'm talking about something that you did to like hurt me or upset me, then I don't want to talk to you about it anymore. Because now it's just like, how are you upset? You know, and I understand like getting upset because you made someone upset, But if you're mad at me or, you know, treating me a certain way because now I'm like, hey, I didn't really like that you did this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like,
they're like overly
like,
defensive.
Oh, like,
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
so, like, it's like, that's not what anybody wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
Well, yeah, I mean, like.
Everyone just wants validation, you know? Some reassurance.
My thing is, and this is, so people, oh God, I will repeat myself again a little bit here, but people hate being the bigger person.
Yeah.
Right? They hate it. In my opinion, it is the only option. You either suffer or you're the bigger person.
Yeah.
And so I will give this advice to people in relationships a lot, and they don't like it. And it is, no matter what happened, no matter whose fault it is, you need to use I and me statements when you're talking to someone about something that you're upset about.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start saying you did this, immediately just a knee-jerk, almost like subconscious reaction is defensiveness.
Yeah.
And so, and now granted, I've also dealt with people who will get defensive at anything, and you got to find your way around that somehow.
That's the most difficult.
But like, let's say we're in a social dynamic, you and I, and you made a joke at my expense in front of everyone, and it really like is a soft spot for me, and you like didn't know, and it hurt my feelings. If I go to you and I say, I don't like what you said about me, your immediate reaction is like, I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings. Like, what the hell? And even if we're friends, like, and even if we care about each other, that's just immediately like, you want to, I'll say, I don't like what you said about me. I think it was rude. And then most of the time someone's immediate reaction is, I'm not a bad person. And it's like, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I will say, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I feel like it's not your fault, but I feel sad about what the comment that got made.
Right.
It really hurt me. And then it's like oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. Like, thank you for even telling me, like, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of opens us up. And you can, like, because most of the time, sometimes, depending on who you're talking about, people are acting with good intention. Right. They're not trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so when you present the issue like they were purposefully, or they had agency in a malicious act, they're so worried about talking about whether or not they're actually a malicious person, rather than consoling the person coming to them about the issue. And the response that I get all the time when people are like kind of like butthurt about it is, but they're the one who fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, but do you want an easy conversation or not?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a matter of like, yes, they fucked up. Yes, it was their fault. Yes, they did something wrong. But if you actually believe that your friend or your romantic partner or your sibling or whoever you're going to about this genuinely cares about you, then you should know that they're not coming from a place of hate.
Yeah.
And you just need to present it. And it will go so much smoother, and you'll do so much better if you just say I and me statements at the beginning.
Yeah.
That lays the framework, and then later you can be like, yeah, and then when you said this, like, that's fine, but the ball's already rolling.
Do you feel like there's a difference between saying, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, and there's a difference in I'm sorry you feel that way?
So personally, I think that I would say I'm sorry that I made you feel that way if I think that I did something wrong and you didn't deserve what I did.
Right.
And so not only am I sorry that I did it, but I'm also sorry that I made you feel that way.
Right.
When I say I'm sorry you feel that way, that is when I feel like I haven't done anything wrong, but you still got hurt.
Right.
And so I want to communicate that I empathize and I feel bad that this is what happened, but also not take blame for something that I think isn't something that is like a line being crossed.
See, I feel like that's a, in my opinion, that's a fine line to walk on, because for me, it's like regardless if I feel like I did nothing wrong, my actions still made you feel a certain way. Whether or not, like, I believe I was the problem or you're just having your feelings because you want to have your feelings. So I feel like I'm sorry you feel that way feels very, like, dismissive.
Yes.
And because it's like, yes, you might feel like you didn't do anything wrong, but now I feel like the way I feel is my own fault, even though it was like you, because it's your opinion and it's my opinion as well, but it's like,
in those instances, it is when the way you feel is your fault. Like, and I know that's kind of harsh, but like, if, for instance, like, we were having a discussion before this about a particular topic where I'm frustrated about getting wrapped up in other people's emotions and all of this stuff, and that would be an instance where I'm like, I'm really sorry that you feel that way.
That makes sense.
And that's because, like, nothing bad happened and someone's still upset. Then that's where you're like, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. Like, if I can do anything to help or anything. And that's like, you can still say it and come from a good place. It's half of it is presentation.
Yeah, totally, definitely.
But for that instance, I haven't done anything wrong.
No, like that would be like,
and I still feel sorry.
Yeah, but I feel like that would be like unacceptable.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it is that person's fault.
Yeah.
But who cares about whose fault it is? Like, something shitty happened, so I will work with you to help you figure it out. The reason that I think it is important to say I'm sorry you feel that way versus I'm sorry I made you feel that way is because one is admitting that I am the problem, and the other one is admitting that I'm sorry that this is happening. And you don't want to. You do not want to take. You don't want to take the responsibility of the problem if you're not the problem, because that gives the other person the opportunity to not look at themselves and to blame you.
Right.
Because if I've done nothing wrong, but I say, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, be like, oh, it's okay, I forgive you. Yeah. You should just change. When in reality, like, whoa. And that's where, like, you start going, like, hold on, like, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. And
it starts going the wrong way.
I guess it all just, like, plays in with context of the situation.
Yes, of course.
Because I've been told that before, where it's like, well, but you made me feel that way, so I don't really understand how it's, like, fair for you to be like, well, sorry you feel that way. And I also guess it's like tone and presentation as well. Absolutely, because if you say it like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, like, yeah, I'm gonna look at you cockeyed.
Well, also, it comes back to honesty. Do you mean that?
Yeah.
Do you actually feel sorry that I feel this way? Are you really empathizing with me? Are we on the same team here? Or are you using keywords so you can be dismissive without being disrespectful?
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I do think it is really important, and it is hard, but I think it's really important to be able to determine who is the cause of the hurt.
Yeah.
Because I can do something that isn't wrong, and I didn't do anything wrong, and that person can still get hurt by what I did. And if I take blame for it, then that would tell them, like, that they don't have anything to change, or they don't have anything to look at internally. And so because at the end of the day, like, if something happened and you get hurt, but you got hurt because you fucked up in your own head or in your own emotions or in your own assumptions, then it is your fault. And, like, that's the thing, is people are so focused on the blame game. But if you genuinely care about the person that you're talking to and want a solution and want people to be happy, then when that environment is laid out, no one cares about whose fault it is.
I was gonna say, like, like, it might be your own situation that got you feeling the way you did, but I think, like you said, tone and presentation is really important. And it's like, if you want to ease the situation, it is I'm sorry you feel that way. Is there anything I can do to, like, help you? But then it's like, if you're having a tone where you're just kind of dismissing it, it's like, well, now no.
People get really, like, butthurt that they're like why does it matter? Why do I have to fucking be so particular about how I present myself?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there is no real reason other than the fact that is just reality. And if you actually care about A, finding a solution, and B, making your issue with this person as short-lived as possible, then
Yeah.
you will care about presentation. You will care about how you talk to people.
Yeah.
You will care about the particular words you use, because that is the only path to squashing the issue as quickly as possible and maintaining a good relationship with the person
Yeah.
and building rapport so that the next time if there's an issue, they trust you.
Yeah.
They trust that you're going to go in with an honest, open mind and with a caring heart
Yeah.
and genuinely try to fix it,
Yeah.
rather than like
Frustration,
like headbutting,
and
combativeness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only way, in my opinion, the only way for that to happen is if you're going to be the bigger person and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Like nobody in this fucking planet wants to be the first one to do it.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then it'll never happen. Like you have to do it.
Yeah.
And then if you, whether this be a friend or a relationship or even a parent, if they're not giving you that same respect back, then fuck them. Like,
yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're done. You can distance yourself. But yeah, it makes me sound like such a dork at times. I feel like when I'm like, honesty, even down to some of the most minute details, is super important.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at you, you fucking Boy Scout. Like, what's wrong with you?
Well, it's just like even little white lies.
But
like,
yeah, but
it's so unnecessary.
It
like
all matters.
Yeah.
It all matters so much because because genuinely, like everyone, whether they're conscious of it or not, are understanding your reputation over time, and it is constantly being put into effect whenever they're interacting with you.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can fool yourself, you can't fool other people.
Yeah.
So I'm really anal about how honest I am about most things, and I know to some people like that will come off as like being a dweeb, but in reality it is the thing that consistently builds like the absolute best relationships with everyone in my life.
Yeah, because they trust you.
Yeah, and it won't. A lot of the times they won't even realize that that's where it's coming from. They'll just recognize like, oh, you can be really vulnerable with me, or oh, you make me feel really seen, or XYZ. But the reason I can even do any of that is because like my bedrock philosophy is hard honesty. Like, and I don't mean hard as in like super disciplined. I mean as in it's not easy. Like it's very difficult to be that honest with people all the time, because like 60% of the time, actually let me flip that, like 40% of the time, if you were to be honest with someone, it wouldn't feel good.
Yeah.
But that's where presentation comes in. If you can get good at that, then you can make it 20% now instead, where you can take something that was going to be an uncomfortable conversation, but you're a little wordsmith and you're a little suave, and you can make them feel comfortable and still present maybe not the most convenient truth.
Right.
But they'll trust you. They'll know you're honest. They'll know you're coming from a good place. And like you reap so many benefits in your relationships from that over the long run. Like
you said, it's your reputation.
Yeah, 100%.
Because
like,
then people will go around like, oh, he's always lying about stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, she's always saying this and it's not true.
Yeah, like don't believe anything out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And like now I know that I can allow others to talk about me when I'm not there, and be like, and I trust you, like because I have given you everything. And I'm not perfect. Like this is my philosophy, but like I will slip up. But my thing is like, can I slip up the least amount of times possible?
Right.
Because when I do slip up, if my reputation is good, people will forgive me and genuinely forgive me, not just tell me they forgive me and then never talk to me again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's big, and I can hammer home on it because like it's just, I don't know. I think there are it's laid out for you the path to a good life, whether that be like relationships or just personal fulfillment and happiness. And that path is fucking difficult. Yeah. But you suffer less in the long run if you are willing to take on some short-term pain. Yeah. Rather than constantly just lying to yourself and like having this slow drip of sweet nothings that just poison you your whole life. And then one day you wake up and you're 40 and you're like, what the fuck have I been doing? Like everything is a mess. Yeah.
And now you're single at a golf course drinking on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Getting at the waitress.
Getting at the waitresses.
Yeah. I don't know. How are we feeling? How are you feeling?
Good.
You want to keep going? You want to call it? We can do either one.
I'm getting a little hungry.
Yeah? Okay. Okay, what was there anything else that you wanted to cover? I know we did talk about some other stuff. But we can actually, we can save it for another time.
That's true. Yeah.
Not even that worried about it.
Because I feel like this one was pretty serious.
Yeah. And we also
pretty serious for unserious.
Exactly.
Throw them in for a loop, you know?
For something called Unserious University, this guy's serious a lot. But yeah, no, there are other things that I would love to talk to you about, but also like we can just do another episode another time and talk about those things. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. And we'll,
hell yeah.
Go. Are you coming over?
Uh-huh.
Cool.
I gotta go home first, though.
That's fine. Yeah, we still
gotta change.
Okay. Well, I'm just making plans.
I know.
We'll do this.
Yeah. All right. So I'll see you later.
All right. Yeah. People are like, are they gonna end the fucking recording? All right. Well, episode 11.
Hell yeah.
Of Unserious University.
I like that number.
Everyone for thank you guys for listening. Hope it was good. Hope you got something out of it.
Hope you learned some honesty and some
don't scrub prisoners' toilets for a living. You don't have to. You can do anything. Just believe it.
Literally anything. Have an OnlyFans. Like sell your foot pics. Just
drink caffeine.
Drink caffeine.
Even if you're a Mormon.
Yes. Have premarital sex.
My
all the
mom
great
listening
things.
To this right now.
I know.
All right.
Sorry, Lisa.
But thank you, everyone. Have a lovely week. This is on a Tuesday because I'm actually fucking punctual this week.
Hell yeah.
So everyone enjoy your week, and I'll be back next time. And
bye.
Yeah, later.